Hey guys, so we have made it into Times Square. This is one of the busiest places in the world. We've just got here and I'm excited to see what else we can find. There is billboards, there is food shops, clothes shops, all of that. So I'm excited to see what else we can find. So make sure you stay tuned. So the topic that we're trying to discuss is whether you identify yourself as being African or African American, and what's the difference with the two?
Okay, well, I would like to, now that I know, identify myself as African instead of African American. I believe that's a title that was just given to us without knowing who we really are, so it takes away from my identity a whole lot. So I'm trying to reconnect with culture and come back in the mindset. So African is who I, identify myself with now, African and American instead of African American.
Okay, so honestly, lately I have not been identifying as African American just because I feel like it is very broad. I know that I am of some African descent, but America has helped to erase our past, so I don't exactly know what I am. I want to take a DNA test to figure out if I'm Nigerian or Ethiopian or Somalian, what exactly I am. So when I check boxes on applications, I put other now. I'm not putting African American, I'm not putting black, because I just don't feel like that is what I am, and that's very broad. And I also feel like when you ask a white person what they are, they don't say I'm white or I'm Caucasian. They say I'm Irish, they say I'm Polish, German. So I want to be able to do the same thing.
Okay, so I want to say from a personal standpoint, I'm literally African American. My mom is African and my father's American. So from a personal standpoint, I would say that, yes, I'm African American. And as a generalization, I would have to say that people identifying with being African American would be accurate. If they want to be more in touch with their Afrocentric roots, they can identify as being African as well as American, which is what they are since they were born here. But for the people that are like me and like to only identify with being African, I mean, that's your preference. So I think it basically would depend on what you prefer to be labeled as. But for me personally, I am African American, literally. So yeah.
I believe that I'm black. And black only. African American, I wouldn't say I'm African American because I'm not from Africa, and I've never been to Africa, so that's another reason. I'm from New York, and black African American.
Would there be an interest for you to maybe go to trace your roots? Because I'm sure that you've got so much history, especially with Americans, there's so much history in their family tree at all?
Maybe. Probably not, though. Honestly, just no, probably not. I like my country. I mean, there's nothing against African people. I would like to go tour, but I would never probably stay. I probably would never stay.
Do you think with the current US politics that's going on, that's affecting a lot of African Americans, do you think that has an effect on whether they identify themselves in some type of way?
Yes, I do. I think with today's politics, a lot of people don't really want to identify with being American. And I've noticed, like, within my age group in general, like, people don't like to be identified with American because they want to be identified with something that is other than being here. They want to be identified with being exotic or foreign, so they'll identify with being African or Spanish or something like that. But I think with today's politics, I don't think people really want to be identified with being American, so they just take that part of themselves away from them.
Do you think with the rise of the politics, especially that's affecting Africans in America, do you think that's caused the reason for people to identify themselves as just African?
It's definitely a major thing for us to take in consideration on.
Well, I'm not saying much on this video because I don't know how they feel over there. I don't know how they feel, and I can't even explain anything about how they feel. So of course I'm also learning from what they're saying, so that's why I'm quiet listening to it. So let us all learn
why we should and know who we are, so because it's definitely with everything that's going on, it's trying to divide and not have who you identify with, you know what I mean? So Yeah, I do believe so.
Do you think with the current U.S. politics that's going on, do you think it's affected a lot of other African Americans identifying themselves in some type of way?
I definitely think so. I think the whole entire world is like on its ass right now. Excuse my language. So, yeah, I think it's affected a lot about how we think and how we view everything right now.